Thank you. And thanks for showing up, taking responsibility for your health. So we need some energy, and we just had energy healing, but some of you guys look a little bit dead in your eyes. So can we just get your arms up? And get them down again? Fantastic. Now I know you can actually raise your arms. How many here actually knows the definition of ultra-processed food? If I drew you up here to the stage, would you be able to tell it? Let me see the hands. How many knows it? Fantastic. 3 or 4 people. So you guys showed up for something you don't know what it's about. That's a good start. We can only surprise positively. Guys, what is ultra-processed food?
Well, I think it's...
We don't even know.
Well, no, yeah, but that's because, I mean, I think it's definitely foods where you have all these ingredients, constituents, and you really what categorizes is, of course you have some nutrients, you have something, protein source, fat source, carbohydrate, energy source, but you have things you normally don't find in nature to add flavor and texture, so you sort of kind of simulate a texture that isn't there naturally. You'd need some real food for that. And then things that enhance flavor. And then also, usually the aim of ultra-processed foods is not to grab you by the nose, in Danish, termination, but grab you by the tongue. So it's like, we're going to create things that will hit your most primal centers and make you eat and drink more and have you like lose control, or at least like override intellect, cognitive function, normal appetite regulation. And that's also one of the reasons why ultra-processed food is associated with obesity, disease of civilization, because it's designed to really make you overeat and override all sorts of natural inhibition or control, and not necessarily produce a lot of, not provide a lot of nutrition.
And we have an academic definition, NOVA.
Yeah. So we have some levels, different levels of processing, and the first one is just the food you know what is, and then you have the next one. You just took me by the right here, so I just have to remember it. The next one is when you do like a small processing to the product. That could be like boiling or heating up in some kind of way to make the nutrients more available. Then
in a preparation.
In a preparation, yeah. And then you have the third one where that could be like a small process that could be like oil or flour or salt or something like that.
Sugar.
Sugar.
Yeah.
And then you have the fourth one, which will be the ultra processed. I'm pretty good at remembering this.
Yeah.
About that. So, and that will be the ultra processed. So what is actually the ultra processed is something that this is maybe also one of the discussions we're going to go for, but maybe something that your body won't be recognizing in the same way as a normal food. So there can be a lot of elements to it, and it's always something that takes something from 1 or 2 or 3 and put together, and then you have the fourth group.
So you won't find it in nature, and it's just not real food, apropos the title of this talk.
Yeah.
And
it's the opposite.
And it's not something that your great-grandparents or anyone older would ever have seen. I mean, because those ingredients or materials weren't there, the industrial production process wasn't there. I think that's an important thing. And then I think it's also pretty important to distinguish that people often confuse ultra-processed and processed foods. They think anything processed is bad. Yes, sugar in excess is bad, but if you add a teaspoon of sugar to your 5 o'clock tea, and you have that doesn't matter. A protein powder, processed, yes, but not a problem. But a protein bar where you added, modified palm oil, you added all of these things for texture, consistency, making more chewy, making it more crispy, and so forth. That would be ultra-processed.
And also not to mistaking the preparation process, that like to cook something is not ultra-processed, or to make an oat porridge, or it's not ultra-processed in the same way.
That McDonald's burger that can live for like 5-6 years and still look exactly the same, that's processed. So that's a good way of remembering it as well. It's not supposed to be 5 years and looking just as delicious or whatever you think when you look at it. But, so there's always been different things that's been demonized within food. Now we hear a lot about ultra-processed food. How is this different than we had fat being demonized at one point? We had, now carbs are becoming more demonized and so on. How is ultra-processed food different than this? If someone is sitting in the audience thinking, is this another fat that we're going to demonize something?
Well, first of all, it's different in the way that fats and carbs and protein is nutrition. So, I mean, it comes in different in different ways, and some of it can be ultra-processed, but like ultimately it is a part of nutrition. Ultra-processed food is not a part of nutrition. It's not essential nutrition. Fats and protein is essential. Carbs you can make yourself, that's another discussion, but it's nutrition. Ultra-processed food is not.
So what is the big problem with the ultra-processed food? Is it that it's poisonous, or is it that it means that we don't eat the stuff that we actually need? What's the biggest problem?
Well, I actually think it's that ultra-processed food takes the place of real food. Because if you overlay the disease characteristics, say, okay, how much more illness will you get if you don't get all your vegetables, berries, and fruits? And then say, substitute 200 grams of vegetables, berries, and fruits in people's everyday food with 200 grams of ultra-processed foods. You get almost identical curves. So, so that's also the question, should we demonize ultra-processed foods or more say, well, actually the problem is people just aren't eating enough real food. And then we have these ultra-processed foods and drinks that are literally designed to grab you by the tongue, so they want you to eat more. And it's both when you taste them, but also the marketing, the placement. I mean, they're placed everywhere. So it's like they're constantly saying, if I'm not getting you now, I'm going to get you in 5 minutes, or then I'm going to get you tomorrow, because I'll place it where you'll see it when your defense is down, and it's just going to literally crawl into your mouth, and then because you get this primal satisfaction, you get it, oh, I need some more. And actually also what they do is they sort of shorten the experience of the food, so they say, okay, we'll let you experience sweetness, but we'll make sure it goes away fast so you need more. So it's it's almost like strip clubs. You think, oh, nothing happened, no, nothing happened, no, nothing ever happened, and you threw away all your money, but got jack shit in return, to be frank.
That's also one of the things they do to oat milk, right? They add enzymes to cut the bran chains, and then you fill the sugar much more, and then you need more.
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of interesting. And I think one of the things about ultra-processed is also that it comes in a lot of colors. And it will always be in a colorful packaging, and I think that also makes it easy to go around it if you want. You can just look for those, and then you say, not them. And then you can look at the package, and you can see that if there's a lot of ingredients in it, and if there's a lot of the ingredients you don't even know, that could also be one of the elements. So, and then I think a lot of people have heard it before, but if it's something your grandma can't recognize, as you said, that would be something that you maybe should go around with. But I read a study, I think most of you guys also know it, about where you took, and it would be the same portion of macronutrients. And one of them came from real food, and one of the experience was from real food, and the other group had it from ultra-processed. So you actually were given the precisely same amount of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. But you could see, and you could eat as much as you wanted, but in the first meals you would have, and then you could eat the snacks that you wanted. And you could see all those who were giving all the ultra-processed, they were eating so much more. Because even though you have the same amount of protein, your body needs more because you maybe don't digest it enough, or you don't get all the nutrients. There's also come the micronutrients you also have in real food, which is also a satiation.
And talking about poisonous compounds, maybe it's not always the primary driver, but we also do know that there can be, you can't say toxic compounds, at least in gut health, which is my passion. We do know that there are some emulsifiers and some of the E numbers that actually are deteriorating the health in the gut, of the gut lining and the gut microbiome. And so there is that compound definitely as well. But I think also, as you say, that a big part of it is because of the nutrients you don't get when you get the ultra-processed foods.
So if we're kind of zooming out, we can say that the ultra-processed foods, they take over the space for the real food. That's one thing that's bad that we can agree on. We can also agree that it makes us want to eat more, the way they're kind of designed. But then there's also the component that they might mess up the microbiome or have other effects in the body. Yeah. So it's not just that they take the spot, it's also that they have some negative effects. Do you all agree on that?
I think. But I think if you were to rank it, the biggest problem is taking the spot. Because if you look at population studies, people who get 600 grams of vegetables, berries, or fruit every day, they get enough protein from decent food sources, they get healthy fats, they get 30 grams of fiber. If they throw in some ultra-processed foods on top, you don't really see any major problems unless they have very specific diseases where they specifically react to that food. So definitely, the large-scale problem is, well, start by eating your goddamn vegetables, berries, and fruits, have your protein from real food, have healthy fats, have fiber, have carbs from real unrefined sources. And actually, if you do that, you won't have space for very much ultra-processed food anyway. And then, so that's an issue. And probably also with the gut, one of the problems with ultra-processed foods is they don't induce the same degree of satiety signaling as real food does. So you get the same amount of protein, carbs, fats, calories, but in the interplay between foods, their components, how the gut microbiome reacts, and also the degree of processing actually alters GLP-1. So we all know GLP-1 because Saxenda, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Victoza, so forth, right? They mimic GLP-1. And GLP-1 is produced by your small intestine, but it's only really produced if you have a healthy gut microbiome, and it's also only really produced if foods aren't digested too fast. So the small mid part of your small intestine, when it actually gets to sense sugars, because you don't break down carbs until you get there, when it gets to sense fats, because it's not oils that are absorbed like this, then that triggers GLP-1. So studies show that you actually get too little GLP-1 for satiety and metabolic signaling compared to calorie levels, even when you do macronutrient equivalency. So there's definitely like this processing, actually some of the intricate signaling goes away. Something you would almost say it's like ultra-processed foods, you remove the instruction manual. So you imagine you go to IKEA, you get the components for a bed, but you don't know it's a bed, and you don't know what goes where. Like usually the screws for the outer frame will be in one bag, the screws for the mid parts will be in another bag. So someone just throws all these components as yeah, go deal with it, figure it out on your own. What the hell are you going to do then?
So putting some of it in perspective, as I hear you say, Umahro, you all three work with clients that come in that are sick. So you have a view to a lot of people that are not doing well. But what you're saying, Umahro, is someone that is healthy and have not been through and seeing one of you guys, if they eat 600 grams, they exercise, they sleep well, and so on, then it's not so dangerous for them to get one Snickers occasionally. That's not going to make them jump up. But if you have some of the people in your clinic, I know some of them, you make sure to remove all that stuff because they have a more fragile health. So there they can actually tip over. Is that a fair thing to say when you see it in the clinic? Because I think that's something we often experience at these conferences, is many people work with people that are sick. So we take that as a starting point. Right. And Ninni, you work with a lot of people as well that sometimes have eating disorders. So sometimes when you get clients from other practitioners that are very restrictive, and they've come there and like they kind of gave up because it was too hard for them to like take everything away. What do you see in regards to getting both people understanding that it's important not getting the ultra-processed food, but also making sure you don't lose them on the journey?
I think for those people, I think ultra-processed would be a safe place because you can always count the calories there. And you'll be like, if I take this bar, it will be 200 calories if I do this. So it's also convenience, and it's very safe because you wouldn't really know if you cooked yourself, that would be too big of a mess to count the calories. So I would start learning them a little bit about how nutrients and satiety and proteins and all this actually have a really big impact on your health. Also in terms of micronutrients, because these people often comes without a cycle, or they have mental illnesses as well, or hormone issues. There can be a lot of different things. So my job here is also just to take them through the journey, because I know that a lot of people who are suffering this way also reacts to knowledge. So if you can teach them a little bit about nutrition and learn them a little bit more about what their body actually needs, I think that's a big start. And then I wouldn't be telling them what not to do. I would tell them more about what to do. Because I think for a lot of people, it's much easier to focus on, okay, can I do all these different things? And then is there still place for your barbell somewhere or whatever you need? Then you can do that. But let's start with the real food first, and then we can add this. And but it takes time. And when I work with habits, I really need maybe a talk a week or something like that to see the progress, because there's a lot of mental blockages.
So I have a male client right now. He's super good at doing a lot of stuff, but he loves his, let's just call it a Diet Coke, right? And I haven't taken that away from him yet, because it's giving him some joy and it doesn't feel like it's too restrictive. But I have an idea, as we talked about, it's not good for his gut microbiome. So if we remove that, he would get faster results. What do you say to someone sitting out here thinking like, okay, I can go away with like eating real food, as you talked about, but I still need my Diet Coke. That's my one guilty pleasure.
I mean, it's probably context-wise. I mean, you have to ask, like, what do you want with your health, and how quickly do you want to get there? And yeah, what's the context in general? Like how health, like what, and also what's your health challenges? Because the more you have, like the more you'll also have to do oftentimes. So it is really a balance. And I mean, I also have clients where I don't like take them completely away, because as we spoke about, like it's not the 2 to 5% that's necessary. It's the 80% you need to change first. So I think it all depends on the context. I mean, if you got him 80% to where he needs to be, probably diet code is not going to ruin it. So, I mean, what do you want? What's the motivation, and what's your health challenges? That's what I would assess.
So if we're shifting gear, now the audience is convinced, we are ready to change some of our diet. We're going to put that sneakers and so on away. What's the superfood? Someone was excited to hear that over there as well.
Is there a superfood?
Yeah.
What real food do we need to eat more of? We had Max on the stage yesterday that talked about spinach and kale, saying that was really good.
But I'd say plant foods. And I'm not saying you should be vegan or vegetarian, but I'm saying like we suffer as a massive underintake of plant foods at population level. Like those 600 grams, 7 or 8% of the Danish population get that on a daily average. And 600 grams is not the best you can do. 600 grams is the minimum unless you want to increase your risk of dying too early from diseases of civilization and aging. So I mean, so like plant foods, and not refined sugars, not refined starch, but plant foods, definitely. That we just see population statistic-wise, that would change things outrageously. And omega-3 fatty acids as well. You see like 20% difference in mortality between lowest intake, highest intake.
I would add like bioavailable nutrition, like because also as you mentioned with spinach and kale, yeah, it's plant foods. They're good stuff and there are good fibers in it for your gut microbiome, but it's not necessarily the best available micronutrients, like for calcium, for example, or like you will have some compromised bioavailability, like how well you absorb the nutrients from the food. That's actually also what you need to care about. So take, for example, a thing like liver, which is so rich in many micronutrients, and it's very, very bioavailable, which means your gut will absorb it quickly. But I mean, that's not because we have to eat liver all the time, but I would actually say like any type of real food, and go for the most bioavailable nutrition you can find, including like the stuff that we don't absorb fiber. That's not, we don't need it, but our microbiome need it.
Exactly.
But really look for the bioavailability, what binds the micronutrients in the foods. So
when you stand in the supermarket and you're scanning like bioavailability 100%, like how do you know that?
Like a rule of yeah, that might be a help. But a rule of thumb is that it depends on, of course, what micronutrient do you need. Usually when we talk about minerals, they will be bound up in plant foods, more so than they will in animal foods. Doesn't mean you don't get anything from plant foods, but you will have to eat more. So like protein is also more bioavailable typically from animal food. It's more bound up in plant foods, so you will have to eat more and more diverse to get the same profile. It's not, I mean, you can do it, but you'll have to think. For most people, you will need a mix to get there. That's my opinion, at least.
And then fermentation.
And fermentation.
Fermentation will massively increase the bioavailability of nutrients and introduce nutrients that weren't there in the first place. Like you ferment cabbage, you get vitamin K2, wasn't there in the first place. You take some of these plant foods with iron or calcium, you ferment them, you actually have better uptake of iron, calcium, and you add beneficial microbes. You could almost say like superfood as well, probiotic foods, whether it's cultured dairy products, whether it's fermented vegetables, kefir, kombucha, that all those things, kvass, they're also definitely superfood category, and they're real food.
And also a part of the problem is that it's not properly prepared, the foods we eat. So like take an example as bread, like sourdough bread is much more, like it has much more bioavailable components than take the regular toast bread from the supermarket, because it's not properly prepared, it's not fermented, so it's not as bioavailable nutrients it carries.
because of phytic acid, right? Yeah. But I think I can hear what you're talking about. But when I sit with my clients and I have a problem of under-eating a little bit, and I tell them to eat 600 grams of vegetables, I would say most of them, that's what they're eating. So for me, I will always talk about protein, and I will talk about it in especially for women, because I see that women under-eat protein. And it's so good for like almost all of the things that should for their body and for the system, for the hormonal production, for their fertility, and also when you turn 30 and your what is called your muscle how do you say that?
You start getting a bit of sarcopenia.
Yeah, sarcopenia is a bit easier word
Slow
to say.
sarcopenia.
Yeah.
Saying that your muscle starts getting.
You lose a bit of muscle.
Yes, yes. You have to really tell your body what you use, and then that will help. So you use your muscles. But so for me, that will be one of the issues that I need to help tell people to eat more protein, and I think that's also because of the bioavailability of all the nutrients there. So plants, yes, but I will focus on the protein first, and then the plants, and then maybe in the end, if there's space, also some carbohydrates in some way, because there's also carbohydrates in plants. But just shifting that plate for women, I can really see huge differences in their strength, mood, fertility, so many things. And also the fat components in the protein is very important. So don't just eat chicken breast and tuna in can.
But I mean, the other thing, like with protein and ultra-processed foods or over-processed foods, is getting enough, but also changing the source. Because I mean, one of the issues, we have this notion that red meat is bad. That's when you look at the population studies, that's actually bullshit. The problem is people who get a lot of protein by eating bacon, salami, ham, flæskesvær, leverpostej, cold cuts, all these processed foods. And that's where you get high blood pressure, kidney dysfunction, colon cancer, so forth. You have people who eat like veal, proper red meat, and other animal foods, and they're not ultra-processed, they're not salted with nitrite or without, they're not dried, they're not smoked, not fried really hard, then you don't get untoward effects. So part of the bad rap for animal protein is actually because of over-processing and the way it's cooked on top of that.
Exactly, what it comes with.
So let's just stop on that, because I think a lot of the audience has well been told. How many here have been told that meat is bad? Let me just see a raise of hands. A little bit higher. Some people are like hiding it further down. Don't want to be called out now. Okay. So we have around, I think, a third or half of the audience here have at least been told that meat is bad. And we hear it from the government as well, that is really bad for you and so on. The prices are going up.
That's more the environment, right? Also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many things in it also, like the extra taxes coming on for transportation and different things. So, but let's leave that for now. Going back, it seems like all of you agree that meat can actually be a really, not just can be, but probably is a really important part of a healthy diet. Is that correct?
Or might say animal protein.
Yeah.
Because meat, then you actually restrict it, because you have meat, you have poultry, you have fish, shellfish, you have eggs, you have dairy products, so the whole...
And organ meats.
Organ meats as well, so I'd say it's the whole gamut of things. But also if you're thinking superfoods like fish. And then when we see low vitamin D, low omega-3 fatty acids across the board, how would that be remedied? Have fatty fish every single day.
But so if you all agree that animal protein is essential, why are there so many people thinking that it's so poisonous? What do we need to tell people to understand that animal protein is essential?
Politics? needs to tell us something else. And the climate debate, which I won't open here.
No.
But
I think when we talk about health, we should talk about health and not about the climate. And I thought it's different.
Yeah, it's very different.
And then like, because then like, what do you tell people to let them know it's important to you? Well, okay. The first thing, if animal proteins are that damn dangerous, how come all the hunter-gatherer societies we study are healthy as fuck? Pardon the language, but if you go and look at the Hadza, if you look at Aborigines in the outback of Australia, if you look at Bushmen in the Kalahari Desert, you look at the Xhosa in South Africa, you look at the wherever that is, if you look at fishermen in Tonga and that sort, are they unhealthy? No. Do they eat large amounts of animal protein? Yeah, but they're not getting bacon, cold cuts, all that crap. They're not putting it in a deep fryer. right? The other interesting thing, actually, a lot of those hunter-gatherer societies, they eat shitloads of plant foods. Like the Hadza get upwards of 100 grams of fiber per day. So the other, like the other side, which is like, don't eat plants, only eat animals because plants are dangerous. Like, actually, if you want to look at some of the super healthy population groups out there, they eat loads of animals, but they're not ultra-processed. Also, the animals are fit as hell. It's not, if you're a cannibal, would you eat the typical person, say, somewhere in the deep south in Texas? Or would you go and get a hunter-gatherer and eat them?
For me, it also makes sense to think about like how does the nutrition come, what package does it come in, and how is your digestion designed to unpack it? And then it just, aligns with how a lot of the animal foods actually come with a nutritious package. Like your digestion is also made to be able to handle that. You have your stomach acid, you have your digestive enzymes to cut those nutrients actually quite easy.
Yeah.
So you can absorb those nutrients. Whereas, like, yes, from plant foods, you also have that, but not to the same extent. You need help from the gut microbiome, and that's another talk. But it just makes sense that animal protein somehow needs to be there, or animal nutrition needs to be there.
So someone is sitting out there being like, okay, I'm not fully feeling the animal protein, but I'm willing to kind of experiment. Now you talked about I shouldn't get that McDonald's burger. Like, what is the quality animal protein? Where do we get it? We talked about liver before. We talked about the things that we normally, it's not like the fancy cuts, but that are actually quite healthy.
Like real ingredients, right? I mean, so meat, get a piece of meat. Or, get a piece of meat, get a piece of fish.
Organic,
Yeah,
grass-fed.
A good quality you can find, grass-fed, organic, or biodynamic.
Buy it online.
Yeah. And if you can't get it in the supermarket, there are lots of places to buy it online.
So for someone that, like in our little nerdy circles, we all talk about grass-fed meat, like, wow, this is amazing. What is grass-fed meat?
Well,
for someone that's just like, what's this weird group that I got into?
It's the way the animals eat, where it actually changes their nutrition profile. So you'll see, for example, more omega-3, or you'll see different nutritious components, which will offer you more nutrition from a grass-fed beef versus a soy or corn-fed beef, which will make more omega-6, for example, than omega-3.
So yeah, but it's almost like, we're talking now human beings, we should eat not ultra-processed. Well, the animals we eat, should they have their real food, or should they have ultra-processed? Because we know what happens to us if we take all the real food and replace it with ultra-processed. What do you think happens to the animals? And then if you eat those animals, well...
Somebody said the other day to me, you are what you eats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can think about that.
Yeah.
So we all work with health. So we kind of are in that environment. What would you say to someone that lives in the normie world, where they go to the office and everyone thinks they're super weird? I've been through that period. What do you do when you transition to eating real food, because the normal thing is unhealthy? What are your best tips to actually navigating around other people without being the weird person sitting in the corner?
For me, I would say start cooking yourself. Try to make all your meals from your own kitchen. And then, of course, you can have I don't know, people say 80-20. You have a day out and all these, whatever you need to do to be social. It doesn't have to restrict yourself in a way, but try to plan like that. And maybe just focus on getting everything on your plate. So don't be restricted by that. See, that is a big step for a lot of people, just to start cook yourself.
I would also say, if it's a concern, like what would my friends think? Like, remember what's the norm and what's normal. Because eating ultra-processed foods all day is not normal. It's the norm, but it's not normal. And to think like, okay, is it actually natural, or am I meant to do this? I think that helps in like, okay, I can continue down this road because it's the right way, and it feels, as long as it feels good to you. I think that's a big part of it as well.
I also if you feel better, if other people who keep on feeling like shit have FLCS, feeling like crap syndrome, like, you can keep on having your feeling like crap syndrome, that's fine. You take that, you do you. I don't want to feel like that, And so if you're going to say snide remarks or whatever, it's like, yeah, sure, but who's going to wake up tomorrow hangry? And who's going to wake up satiated, fulfilled, happy, with energy, feeling well, right? So actually prioritize your own well-being. That's maybe not just for food, but in general, people make these changes for health, whether to stop drinking, start exercising, going to bed on time, whatever. Like if other people, they have their own shit they deal with because they feel challenged, just let them waddle in their own pool of piss. Sorry, the very colorful language, but like, and I'll go jump in the cold tub or in the super spa instead, and enjoy it and feel better. And you can come join me if you want. If you don't, sure.
So jumping into kind of protocols or way of looking at it, I was told at one point just avoid everything with an E number. But then we had a discussion about them out that E numbers are a bit more nuanced than just every E number is evil.
Yeah.
Can you say a few more words about that?
Yeah. Well, the E numbers are just numbers used to, like, as an abbreviation for ingredients you can add to food, either for preservation, color, taste, or texture. But if you say all E numbers are bad, like, just to take an example, like, then you say, don't eat anything with E 160 and 161. In that case, I say, don't ever eat carrots, oranges, don't ever eat pumpkin, because E 160 is beta carotene and all the other orange carotenes. E 161 is lutein, which Max was talking about yesterday, the yellow color pigment, right? Or, so if you get that, or E 163, that's lycopene, the red color pigment. So you can't actually say the E number bad. If you get fermented products, whether it's dairy products, you're going to get E 270, which is lactic acid. So you'd have to go and look at what those E numbers are and say some of them are just naturally occurring constituents, and they're found in humongous amounts in foods you eat that are real.
Yeah.
So for people sitting listening, being like, okay, I thought E numbers was easy, I just look behind and then I say like, this is trash.
Yeah.
There's a bigger story. One thing is you might know all the E numbers, you can look them up, because you have too much time already now that you learned that you have to eat so differently, so you're just like looking for more stuff to find new hobbies. Or you could potentially, that's where you can use technology, ChatGPT, turn around, ask what does these E numbers mean, or any of them food.
And how many are there, and how long a process has this food that you're looking at come? Can you recognize
exactly? Just
the
look at
ingredients
the
that
food. Can you recognize it or not?
Yeah.
That's I think.
And if it has many weird names, like even if you know if it's a good or bad E number, like put it back.
I think it's like 3 or 5 ingredients.
Yeah.
Like
So we like few ingredients.
Yes.
We like home cooking, and for the people that are just super busy that never cooks themselves, what do? They just go home and cry after today, and they're like, this was a sad session.
pretty much.
But I think it's a priority. Like you just need to figure out where is your priority. I know that in my home it's me. I cook. If I don't, then my boyfriend will buy Volt, everything there. So I think it's a priority. And if you don't know where to start, try to start with your breakfast, because your breakfast will set the energy for the day. And if you start there and you please just eat some animal protein for your breakfast, so you have a great start, full of energy, full of micronutrients. Then you will see that it matters, and then maybe that will lead to, oh my God, I'm gonna do the next one as well.
And also, when you cook, if you do that every now and then, like cook twice, third as much as you would, like make a huge batch. You don't make half a cabbage, you make a whole cabbage if you put it in the oven.
Yeah.
Don't make half a pumpkin, you make a whole pumpkin. It's like just make double the amount, put it in storage in the fridge, and you always, or in the freezer, like always make more than you think you can eat, or like as you were double the amount of people at home.
Yeah.
And then I mean, like for dinner now you can get all these meal boxes, right, where it's ingredients, skein foods, årstid, and so forth. So it's like, I don't know how to cook things, but here it comes, and I just do what I'm told. But because I think actually a real challenge is, if you look at the madkulturen set up by the Danish Ministry of Food and Culture, and so they polled Danish families and households, and 1/3 are cooking dinner, 1/3 would like to cook dinner, but we don't know how to cook with ingredients, and the final third, like, they don't care, or they just don't have the time or the mental bandwidth. So there's a real problem is actually people need to learn to cook with ingredients. There's also some studies out showing what has the most impact on whether people eat healthy real food or not. Some of it is nutrition knowledge. Okay, well, fatty fish is high in omega-3s and it's DHA apart from, but it's actually cooking abilities. There's a French sociologist, Klaus Fischler, who studied, and he looks at trends about, knowledge of how to cook and how that directly correlates with the amount of real food people eat. So when people know how to cook, when they've been brought up learning how to handle ingredients, vegetables, berries, fruits, fish, shellfish, eggs, cheese, grains, that sort of thing, chickpeas, lentils, cook with them. Then they can cook, and they're kind of free in the kitchen. Like they can, you can give them ingredients they haven't combined before because they instinctively understand them. They know how to cook. And even then when they go out to eat, they're more likely to choose real food. I mean, there are studies in Japan where food in school is way more involved. And in the schools where they have the fishermen and the farmers and also the farmers come in and show the vegetables, not just that the children look at the food when it's prepared. As they grow up as adults, they actually eat healthier and cook more on their own. So that's like a population thing. If you're a parent, you better bring your goddamn kids into the kitchen now and cook real food with them, not open a box, because that would make a huge difference, like going forward.
So summing up before we're gonna turn it out to a question or two from the audience, we heard that ultra-processed food in itself, they take over the spot from the good food. That's a huge problem, but it's not the only problem. It's also that they mess up our gut and other things. There might be things that are not good in them. We heard that we need to have a bigger focus on protein. I know that you all agree on that, even though it's mostly Ninni talking about it today, but I know that's one of the key things that you often talked about as well. I think most of you would agree between 1.6 grams to 2 grams of protein per kilo weight.
2.2. Yeah.
So at least as the minimum.
Unless obese, like per kilogram of healthy body weight.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole that animal protein, people should not be afraid of it. Actually quite the opposite, that it's really healthy and really good for us.
From good sources.
From good sources. We don't want the salami, we don't want
quality over quantity.
Yes.
Always.
We want the grass-fed meat.
Kjær. No.
We want the Kjær, yes, another concept. And then we want to learn to cook.
Yeah.
Those are at least some of the key things to take away. And that if you get one Diet Coke, that's not going to kill you, especially not if you're healthy already. But if you have autoimmune diseases, gut issues and others, it might be some of those extra things that might be pushing you out over the border, and then you have to be more restrictive. Yeah.
Well
So that was at least some of the takeaways. Do we have any questions from the audience before we round off? There's one over there.
Hi, thank you for a very interesting talk. My question is a little bit about internationals and how people coming from different places eat differently. I'm Italian and I eat pasta every day, if not every second day. And it's normal. People at work are, another pasta day, great. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or how do I process it differently from someone from other places and grown up differently? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think, again, like if you have pasta which is made traditionally and then you have it with tomato sauce, we are looking at real food. A part of the scare of carbohydrates is again this, people who get shitloads of fructose from added sugar have a problem, not people who eat fruit. People who get loads of starch from deep pan pizza, thin crust pizza, not proper Italian pizza, but or they get mac and cheese, they have an issue. But people eat starch where it's real food, they don't have diabetes, not an issue whatsoever. So you are probably eating real food.
I would actually, as the first, ask, what else do you get for your meal? Because if you have, if it's a minor component of the meal and you do have the proper protein size and you do have some vegetables or other whole foods, it's not as big as a deal. But if it's 80% of the meal, it's quite carb loaded, and it will take over for the spot for other nutritious component.
Yeah, I would also say try to balance it out, and I also look at what you eat for breakfast and lunch, and then depending on what your goals are and your muscle and your metabolism and muscle mass, and because there is often a great deal to what is kind of it's often a good thing to push it in the more protein direction. So it doesn't mean that you need to eliminate your pasta, just maybe see if you can put in more vegetables and then an amount of protein on the side, so the pasta would be maybe a third of the meal instead of being the meal. That would be my approach.
So before rounding off, what are you working on right now? The 10 second from each of you. What's one of the projects you're passionate about?
Me? So I'm on maternity leave, but when I'm back, I'm gonna work with fertility. And then right now I started a skincare brand. It's really nice.
It is.
Look at her glowing skin.
I'm building a baby, and I'm also building a new course for bloating, which this could look like, because bloating is definitely one of the main gut symptoms that I see out there.
I'm starting a podcast next year called Sandhed om Sundhed, Truths About Health. And then I'm about to embark on my next trilogy of books starting next year as well, about basic health.
Fantastic. Thank you all for coming on stage, and thank you for all of you for sitting here listening through. Please give yourself and the speakers a big hand.